Hey, listeners. Well, this week I'm in Melbourne working with a group of leaders. This is in Australia. And today in the workshop, the word bold, B-O-L-D, came up a few times. So I thought, well, why don't we do an Ask Dennis episode on bold leadership? So let's discuss.
Welcome to Leadership is Changing. Each week, we and our guests provide information and insights through exploring leading change. This is taking your leadership to another level by finding the balance between executive excellence and personal well-being through stories that inspire real change. It's time to adapt in our fast-moving world when leadership is changing with your host, Denis Gianoutsos.
Welcome to the Ask Dennis episode. This is a freestyle episode where I'm asked a question by our listeners or I share my thoughts, experiences, and insights from working with many leaders around the globe. Hey there, listeners. Well, this week I'm in Melbourne, as I was saying before in the opening, in Australia, and working with a group of leaders. Now, today in the workshop, the word bold, B-O-L-D, came up a few times. So I decided to do this Ask Dennis episode on bold leadership. But before we finish the session today, I told the participants in the room that word came up today, and I want to use that as a topic in the actual Ask Dennis episode. So I asked them in the room to help me come up with the words that are associated with the letters in the word bold. So we are living in that increasingly complex and dynamic world, and leadership demands more than just managing the status quo. It requires boldness, it requires creativity, and more importantly, it creates decisiveness. Well, we came up with those words with the team in the room today, and I want to thank them very much for helping me in actually doing that and pulling it together. Bold leadership is really the core of what it takes to step up and rise above challenges, inspire others, but also drive impactful and meaningful change. To lead boldly, you need to adopt a mindset that is courageous, may even be more vocal and action oriented. So, what I want to do is break down what BOLD stands for in the way of leadership. B stands for brave. When you look at things, bold leadership is being brave. It's actually what we call bravery. It's actually getting out there. Now, bold leaders are courageous enough to step into that ambiguity or the unknown or the uncertainty. They take calculated risks, but they make decisions that others may decide not to do. Being brave means confronting challenges head on, regardless of how fearful you might be or doubt that actually exists. And knowing that failure is often a necessary part of the growth process. In other words, you know that you may fail at it, but you're still going to go ahead and do it because you know what? That's where we learn. And bold leaders inspire confidence in their teams by showing them that it's okay to take risks as long as you know what your purpose is. Now, whether it's opening into, say, maybe new markets, new products, or launching a new product, or confronting maybe some issues that are happening internally in your organization, being brave enables leaders to make those decisions that can become impactful and embrace what we call, in the field of leadership and change, the unknown. So that's B is for brave. O really stands for what they came up with in the room, out of the box thinking. And out of the box thinking challenges the status quo and encourages teams to push beyond their comfort zones and maybe go into what we call the uncharted territory. So if you think about somebody in the early days where they may have been traveling by boat around the world, but they were going into seas or they were going to countries that they may have never been before. So the item of bold leadership is important in today's fast-paced changing world, where industries are really starting to evolve rapidly and disruption is becoming the new norm. Leaders who really think differently, who can, and in coaching we talk about it, but in leadership we talk about it as well, who can reframe problems or look for solutions. They're going to position their organizations, their teams to stay ahead of the curve and really start to foster a culture of whereby they can improve on a continuous basis. So the O is for out of box thinking. And that out of box thinking is important for us to probably critically think nowadays and think about things maybe different. I'm actually going to encourage you to challenge your own thinking, but also challenge your team's thinking. L stands for loud, but it's about not being loud and boisterous. It's more about having a strong voice, because bold leaders do have strong voices. They're not afraid to speak up or advocate for their ideas or champion things that they believe in. Now, being loud in the way that we're talking about it today is actually having confidence to make sure your message is heard clearly and effectively. Bold leaders use their voices to influence, to inspire, and to motivate or excite others into going into action. Having a strong voice doesn't mean overpowering others. It's about standing firm in relation to your values or communicating with clarity, but also making sure that important issues aren't being overlooked. Bold leaders know how to share their vision or the organization vision, but also make sure that their teams feel heard and empowered to actually contribute their own ideas as well. So L stands for loud, but it's really about you having a strong voice. D is decisive. Bold leaders make decisions. There's nothing worse than a leader that doesn't make a decision. Come on, we're just going to make it. Okay, you need to gather information. You might need to look at different options, but you need to act with confidence, even when you're facing uncertainty. Decisiveness really stops the hesitation. But you know what? The really important thing is that it keeps the momentum going. It allows people and organizations to move forward rather than getting stuck in the weeds or getting stuck with that analysis or what we call analysis paralysis. So if you're being decisive, doesn't mean that you're making rash decisions or making quick decisions. It's about having the courage to make timely, well-informed choices. That's going to push the team, the individuals, the organization toward their goals. Bold leaders understand that no decision comes without its risks, but the ability to make a clear, confident choice builds trust and inspires others to follow. When leaders embrace the bold approach, being brave, thinking out of the box, using a loud voice, and being decisive, that's when you as a leader can create an impact throughout your whole organization. Bold leadership is actually contagious. When you start to see a leader who is bold and start to do things, it really starts to see where you see a culture being created where people feel empowered to take risks, speak up, and actually start to contribute more, but without the fear of failure or judgment. Bold leadership really is about thriving in today's rapid changing world. It's the type of leadership that embraces that uncertainty, as I've talked about before. It pushes the boundaries of what could be possible, but really inspires teams to think big and take action. Because you see, when you lead boldly, you not only navigate the challenges more effectively, but you also inspire those around you to be the best and start fostering a culture of growth, resilience, and innovation. So you may be thinking about, well, Dennis, how do I become or how do I develop this bold leadership? In the be brave space, that's one thing you want to do. You want to be brave. So challenge yourself to take risks and step out of your comfort zone. I'm going to encourage you to encourage your team to do the same. But you need to create an environment where failure is seen as a learning opportunity and not as a mistake or a step back. Think outside or out of the box. So if you can support people and even yourself, then creativity and innovation will start to become and will start to help encourage new ideas and challenging people's thinking. If you can make space for people to brainstorm and experiment, that'll be a great thing to happen. Well, what do we mean by space? Well, it's the ability to allow them to do it, give them permission to do it, because you want to encourage the brainstorming or people to experiment with things, right? So give them the space to do it. Use your voice. Make sure that your message is clear and consistent. Don't waffle. Make sure it's clear and consistent. And don't hesitate to speak up about what matters and encourage your team to share their voices as well. And finally, be decisive. Don't wait for everything to be perfect to make decisions. Look, trust in your instincts. Make the choices. But more importantly, keep the momentum going. Bold leadership is more than just a leadership style. It's a mindset. It's a way of actually working, but that empowers leaders. Because you see, in the world today, whereby we reward courage and creativity, bold leaders are the ones who create that lasting change and leave a legacy. My question to you leaders is this: are you ready to lead boldly? Well, your call to action this week is to download the 10 proven ways to lead and thrive in today's world. It's an executive guide where there's 10 main themes and 42 strategic insights. Understand where you are with each one of these different main themes and strategic insights, and think about the things that you might need to work on to become that bold leader. Hey, listeners, that's it for this episode. It's always a pleasure being with you. Thanks for joining me on the Leadership is Changing podcast. Until next time, bye for now.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Leadership is Changing with your host, Denis Gianoutsos. Each week, we and our guests provide information and insights through exploring leading change, inspiring executives and leaders to adapt and lead a bigger game in a fast-moving world.